So strap in and get ready.
The leaders in NRL Supercoach are incoming. Bringing you the ultimate insight to help you win your leagues and climb up the rankings.
You're now listening to the Insight NRL Show with your hosts, Brain, Matrix, and Whisperer.
Yes, g'day guys. Welcome back to the Insight NRL Show. I'm the Supercoach, Brain, and I'm here on deck tonight, Wednesday night, to bring you the Insight Unlimited Q&A episode. For all our Insight Unlimited members who get to ask their questions every single week, we put together an episode just for them so that they can get their team right for round 9 of NRL Supercoach. If you want to become an Insight Unlimited member, you can do so. It only costs you $25. That's it for the full year as well, not just the rest of this season, but the full year. You get access to expert insight from the NRL, AFL, NBA, NBL, and BBL teams at Insight Fantasy Sports. And in the Discord, you can jump in for free, and then you can get in touch with one of us, and we'll point you in the right direction so that you can get all the good stuff from Insight Unlimited. Now, of course, we are here to answer the questions for the Insight Unlimited members. So let's start with those for round 9. Kicking us off is Dr. Hamo himself, Ryan Hammond. And his first question is, which one of each option would you rather? Gray or Armstrong? And then B, Isaac Tungo or Ruben Garrick? Firstly, I think the first one's pretty easy answer for me. I think it's Armstrong. And the jury's still out on what's going to happen with Latrell Mitchell when he comes back for Jai Gray. Now, best case scenario we see here is that Jai Gray maintains the fullback position. We see Latrell come into centre. With a new coach, everything is up in the air. We really don't know what's going to happen or how this is going to play out. But, of course, we're going to have to wait until next week to find out what's going on with Jai Gray and how that's all going to play out. But I'd urge everybody to wait just a little bit. Wait a week. Let's see what this looks like when Latrell's back in the team. And if Jai Gray's still floating around there somewhere, he might be a buy next week. Obviously, with David Armstrong from the Knights, he's maintained that fullback position there. He looked great in game 1. There is no reason why I can see him dropping out of this team after such a strong performance in round 1. But I'd urge everybody to wait on him too. If you had to choose one, I'm picking Armstrong every day of the week. I think the job security is there, but I'd probably wait on both just in case you hate to go early on a player before a price rise and you see some sort of injury. Happens every year. So, but Armstrong's the downgrade there purely because he's centre wing eligible. I think that's the easier pick as well. Centre wing fullback for Armstrong and 5'8" only for Gray. Let's hope that he gets the fullback duel come round 12 when they do the adjustments. But yeah, Armstrong for me in that first slot. Now the second one, Isaac Tungo or Ruben Garrick. I think if we're making this decision this week, it's Garrick because Isaac Tungo has a 101 break even. Ruben Garrick has a 4 break even. So the right pick this week to get on is Garrick. I think Garrick's my pick anyway. We've seen Isaac Tungo with and without Nathan Cleary this year. Started the season red hot. Nathan Cleary went down. He went cold. If Cleary picks back up again, then Isaac Tungo might be a really nice option. But I think for now, you have to get Garrick at bottom dollar. I think Isaac Tungo is going to drop a little bit of cash, and you might be able to pick him up in a couple of weeks at a 50 to 75k discount. So I'd be holding there and picking Garrick this week. Now, Edge has the second question. Who do you think plays fullback for Manly when Tommy is out carving up the Maroons, Garrick or Kohler? I'm sure the Queenslanders watching this one are not going to be happy with that question. But, yeah, who do I think plays fullback for Manly? Look, your guess is as good as mine at this point. I think from what I've seen, though, I would not be surprised in the slightest if Tolu Kohler plays fullback when Tommy Turbo is out. Purely because I think Garrick's really kind of solidified that centre spot. I don't know whether they're going to want to change too much up with Garrick this year. He's playing some really good footy at the moment. Are they going to want to change that? I'm not quite sure. So I did say at the start of the season in a few chats, and a few people have been asking this question already, who I think is going to be there. And I'm just going to say that I think it's going to be Kohler. We saw at the back end of last season, the last 2 games that Kohler played at fullback were outstanding. And that's not to say that Garrick wouldn't be great too, but I think maybe Garrick is more valuable in the centres, I would say, even defensively as well, than Kohler would be. So, yeah, I'm going to say Kohler goes to fullback and Garrick stays at centre. That's the way I see it playing out. Now, the next question is from Shorty. Now, has Bronson Sherwin gone off everyone's radar because they had the bye last week? He's 400k, attacking centre on a deadly left side, and he plays 2 big buys where the whole left edge won't be interrupted. And that is a really good point. It's funny, isn't it, when a team goes on a bye? The whole player, their roster goes off the radar, doesn't it, for a week, and we start looking at and planning other moves and things like that, and we forget about these guys that still have negative break-evens from the team who had the bye. Bronson Sherwin, still a good buy. Still going to make some money. Still on that attacking left edge. If he was on the right, I think we thought he was going to be on the right a couple of weeks ago, and he wasn't. He was on the left, and Crichton was on the right. So plenty of positives there. I think, he's definitely still a buy. I think the reason he's gone off people's radar are because you've got 2 big money makers, I guess you could say, in David Armstrong, who's going to be making some good money next week. But also you've got Fuller. People are using trades on to try and get him in and maximize their cash generation. But I think what we're seeing with sides now is we're seeing a lot of sides actually upgrade to premium keepers in the centre wing now. You've got your Joey Manus, your Val Holmes has a really nice run for the next month. Ruben Garrick's the most traded in player this week. You've got a ton of other guys. Jacob Carraz is probably more relevant than Sherry as well. There's so many to choose from in the centre wing. I think Sherry probably drops down the pecking order just a tad. And that's not because he's not a good option. I think it's just because everybody's paying up for those season keepers. So I'd say that's probably why. But if you are looking for a kind of like a mid-range guy that's going to continue to make some money, he's a good option for sure. All right, Brent's got a couple of questions back to back here. So is it worth keeping Ethan Strange's around 13 number? Not too many 5/8s to go to outside of Plath. Now, I guess the question becomes, Plath can be a dual 2RF and 5/8, so you can use him at 2RF. I'd probably rather have Plath at 5/8 though. For me, I'd rather lock and load that 50 every single week in 5/8 in what has been a pretty shithouse position, if I'm completely honest. It really hasn't been a good position this year. So a lot of people might have Tamari Martin. They want to bail out to Plath. But if you still have Ethan Strange, I think we've come to a point now where his price is definitely topped out. And we also were really hoping that we were going to see kind of more playmaking duties, more kicking in play from Ethan Strange when Jamal Fogarty went down. And it looks like KO Weeks has taken over that role somewhat. So, yeah, for me, it's Strange took a little bit of a back seat. And whilst he's a great player, I think there's now question marks around the Raiders and their ability to compete in games long-term into the season. So I think you just want to maximize that cash that Ethan Strange has made and bail out to a keeper or bail out to a Plath who you can easily play every single week, regardless of matchup. Also, I guess when we're talking about Plath, the Dolphins have a really friendly origin period, playing rounds 13, 16, and 19. So that's definitely a plus as well. If you have Strange in the center wing even, that's even probably more reason to trade him out because you've got so many of these center wings ripe for the picking right now this week. And, Strange is probably the most expensive of those cheaper options that came through at the start of the year. So, yeah, I don't think it's worth keeping him, to answer your question, Brent. I think he's ready to be traded out, regardless of whether he's going to be around 13 number or not. Now, next question, how did Turbo and Garrett go without Ola Kawatu? Initially, the question had DCE in there as well, but obviously DCE got off, so lucky for Manly. Brent's obviously, he understands that we aren't just getting Garrick for this week, but is it a concern that there is no Ola Kawatu, there is no big body right edge forward, right edge back rower to take a lot of attention for Garrick? Because, look, don't get me wrong, Garrick benefits from having Ola Kawatu inside him. Absolutely, 100%. Am I concerned about Garrick though? No. One, Garrick, Ola Kawatu's only out for a fortnight. Okay, so Ola Kawatu comes back to some pretty awful matchups. We'll talk about him soon. But I feel like these next 2 matchups for Manly are still going to be relatively friendly for them, regardless of whether Ola Kawatu's there or not. I think I'm not overly concerned with Ola Kawatu missing 2 games. Ruben Garrick is still a season-long keeper. And I think you're buying him at bottom dollar, regardless of the matchups, regardless of who's missing. You're buying him and you're keeping him for the full year. And he's goal kicking, and Manly are going to put up some points in the next 2 games against favourable opposition. And he will pick up some nice base points there, I think. So, yeah, I'm not concerned. And lastly, why is Robbo not playing Terere May big minutes? He kind of worded this a little bit differently. I had to reword it so it was partially PG. Why is Terere May's minutes fallen off a cliff, and are we selling him? Now, there's 2 different arguments to this, I guess. I see a lot of people selling him, and I can't talk you out of that, to be honest. When we see his minutes go down, and his last 4 weeks, I think he played 50 minutes once, but then we're looking at 30 and 28-minute stints. So, there is a big concern there with Terere May's minutes and whether Robbo's going to continue to use him in that capacity moving forward. But we've got Origin coming up. I know that obviously Spencer Leniu is due back, so that kind of clouds things. But then obviously Lindsay Collins comes back out, so it's like a like for like in a sense there. There is logic to hold Terere May as your front row forward 3, because through the Origin period he could ramp back up. We saw what Terere May can do when he gets minutes, and it's just a matter of him getting minutes. It's only a matter of one of these guys. Jared Warrior-Hargraves is getting along in age. He could go down with an injury like he does most years. So Collins through the Origin period, they're relying pretty heavily on these guys. And look, you've got guys like Su'a Wong on the bench who can play middle and edge. I'd say Su'a Wong drops out when Spencer Leniu comes back. So I think if you're selling him, I'd be selling him this week. His break-even's is 90. I don't know whether it gets better before it gets worse. So I think you're probably going to lose a little bit of cash on him over the next fortnight to 4 weeks. And if you're okay with that, though, I think he's pretty good as a hold all the way through to probably at least around 2021, where he can be your front row forward 3 if you're going to upgrade someone like a Sam Hughes or even a Liam Henry, depending on how you want to play it. So, sell him this week if you're not confident in that, or you want to upgrade to AFB or someone like that. But I don't really see any other reason to go to anyone else aside from maybe AFB upgrade or Samuel Afinu as a downgrade option, who could be a really nice little play there with the minutes he's getting at the Tigers the last month. Now, Dr. Hamo's back for another one. Last reserve on Terere May versus the Bunnies, or Api Koroisau versus the Bulldogs. And this is a bit of a tricky one. If we go back and have a look at Supercoach Guns, shout out to him and his try map, because this is pretty relevant moving forward. And I don't have the updated one for this week, but when we look at the South's defense, their right edge is conceding a serious amount of points. And this doesn't necessarily match up with Terere May being on the left. But in saying that, they, I think it was the Storm last week, Xavier Coates scored a double before he went off. That edge, both of their edges are pretty leaky at the moment. They're not exactly looking the greatest, the Bunnies. So for me, I would be playing Terere May on this matchup. Obviously, with Api Koroisau, kind of with that back injury, with that a nerve impingement or a cork, I think it was initially said to be, with that going on and lurking around. And he's also got Jake Simpkin in the reserves and Latu Fainu on the bench for the Tigers this week. There is every chance potentially Api doesn't play 80 minutes because he's not wouldn't call him an 80-minute hooker these days. And also when he's kind of managing an injury like that, might not be playing his best footy. So yeah, I'd probably pick Terere May versus the Bunnies in this one, and hope he refines some form with Cleary back in the team. Hanko's next question is AFB or David Fifita the best buy moving forward? It's hard to say anybody other than David Fifita, isn't it? He's just come back from injury and looked like he never missed any time. He's averaging 84.6 on the season at the moment. He's the highest averaging 2RF in NRL Supercoach this season. It's so hard to go away from him. I know that people are looking because of Origin coming up. He's going to miss 13, 16 and 19, and there's always question marks around whether forward's back up or not. But for me, I think David Fifita is the pick. I know he's an extra probably 100K on AFB, and I know AFB's been fantastic this year, continues to score tries, and that's great, and so does David Fifita. So they're both great attacking weapons, but I'm picking David Fifita just off the back of the fact that he's just such a damaging player, and the Titans are still putting up points regardless of whether they're winning or losing. I think David Fifita plays a pretty big part. And also, I traded David Fifita before Origin last year, and I regret it so much because he just continued to hurt me with 100 after 100 after 100. I think he had 600s in 7 games through that kind of lead up to Origin into Origin. So, yeah, David Fifita is your guy here, Hanko, I think. Now, Shorty's asking, is Olakau'atu a sell off the back of the fact that he's missing 2 weeks? Now, look, I don't actually hate the reason as to why you would sell Olakau'atu. So if we look at the back end of Manly's draw here, they've round 9 this week. They've got Canberra at home, so they're very favourable matchup, but it will be wet. So he misses that one. He misses the Dolphins. And then Olakau'atu comes back in round 13 against the Broncos at home and Melbourne at home. So the good thing is at least he doesn't have to travel, but 2 very tough matchups into the bye in round 13 and then Panthers in round 14. So that is a really tough month of football there for the Manly Sea Eagles. And obviously with Olakau'atu coming back and missing these next two favourable matchups coming into that really tough month of footy, maybe he is a sell. I'd probably say that he is a sell, and you can capitalise on guys like Britton Nickera coming into form and dropping in price. I'd say he's probably bottomed out or close to it now. You're going to get him as cheap as you can get him. You've got David Fifita if you've got to splash the cash there. You've got so many good 2RF options that I think Olakau'atu is a sell basically on the fact that, unfortunately, he misses these two good matchups and comes back into a month of tough footy. Next question is Matty Granger. Who should I upgrade out of Xavier Willison, Sam Hughes, or Liam Henry? Now, the question, has Willison peaked in cash at 422K? He has a 47 break even this week. Is he a hold when Carrigan and Haas play Origin? And I mean, look, it just depends on how you structure your front row forward. Now, if you've got Willison, Hughes, and Henry, you've got a bit of a logjam there of cheapies. Now, if Willison was your front row forward 3 or 4, I would say hold. Because you're right, and it's a good point by Matt Granger talking about the fact that when Carrigan and Haas go to Origin, they're going to be short on those kind of big minute middle guys. He's going to play a pretty big role, I think, Xavier Willison, through the Origin period. Also, we don't know whether Haas is going to back up or Carrigan's going to back up. We know how brutal Origin can be. So I think for what it's worth, for Matt Granger, I'm selling. If he's your front row forward 2 and you're relying on him week in, week out, I think he's a sell. But if you have him as your front row forward 3 or 4 and he's on your bench and you can play him on matchups or you can play him when Haas and Carrigan are out, then that's probably the only reason that I would keep Willison in my team. And the last one here, bit of a shorter Q&A, which is nice. Mally11 is asking, what are your thoughts on fading David Fifita and getting both Karaz and Azarko with the plan to do Lussick to JMK next week? Obviously already has Ruben Garrick. Now, the words fade and Fifita are too close to my heart because last year I did this exact move and he hurt me. He hurt me big time. We know what David Fifita can do. He just falls into points. He just grabs the ball from dummy half and he barges his way over and always seems to find the chalk. Now, is he going to hurt you through Origin? Yeah, he probably could, to be honest. But in saying that, you've got to look at what your other options are. And if it allows you to get 2 premium centre wings, Karaz has a quite a friendly little lead up into the Origin period where he's going to cover round 13. And I'm pretty sure he covers round 16. I'm not 100% sure. I'll double check that. But Azarko obviously covers 13, 16, and 19. The downside, and we spoke about Plath earlier, and we've talked a lot about Fuller this week. The Dolphins in general, we love their bye schedule, but they also miss round 14 and 18, which, look, it's not that great, but we need to remember that they're still going to miss 2 games through that period. Now, during the 13, 16, and 19, it's only your best 13 players that score for you in those major bye weeks. So you don't actually really need a ton of players available. If anything, you kind of want to minimize so that you make sure that you're not caught short in 14 and 18. So if you overstack on guys that are going to miss 14, so if you've got a ton of Raiders players, and then you've got a ton of Dolphins players, and if we bring the drawback up very quickly, you'll also see there in round 13, I've got the question in the way. That's good viewing. The Roosters also have the bye. So if you've got a Joey Manu, because he's going to be fullback in round 13 when Teddy goes to Origin, you're going to miss a fair few guys in round 14 if you don't be careful about overloading on these guys that are available through those major buys. So yeah, very important to keep that in mind with these Dolphins players. But if we quickly move back to the question, thoughts on fading Fifita and getting Karaz and Azarko this week and allowing to get JMK. So you are getting 3 guys and you're getting 2 guys that are going to miss 14 and 18. You're also getting Karaz. If it allows you to get 3 upgrades to fade Fifita, you've just got to look at the points difference. Do you think Fifita is going to average 100 plus over the Origin period? If he does, I mean, you've just got to work out how much of an improvement Karaz, Azarko, and JMK are. I'd say Lussick to JMK gets you at least 25 points a week, the way that JMK is playing, and the fact that Brendan Hands is on the bench now is creating a lot of concern for Lussick owners at the moment. Obviously, we won't find out until next week whether Hands holds that bench position. But question marks around Lussick now. So there's 25 points right there doing that upgrade. And then also Karaz and Azarko, I'm assuming that you're selling guys like Schiller, who isn't even playing anymore. You might be selling Ethan Strange or someone like that as well. Maybe a Jack Bostock who's top or close to topping out. So yeah, there's a pretty big increase in points there based on what you're going to get from selling maybe a Sean Lane to Fifita. It might be 50 points, but are you going to cover 50 points across those 3 trades if you save that cash? So I don't like fading Fifita, but I do like the fact that you can probably make 3 genuine upgrades there to strengthen your team, Mally. So I'd probably lean in that direction there and make those upgrades and get that depth in your squad. Now, guys, that brings us to the end of the questions. Of course, if you would love to become an Insight Unlimited member, the Discord is popping off at the moment. A bunch of awesome guys in there. Now, it only costs you $25 and you get access to everything that we do. You get access to our final teams, our trade thoughts. We bust the numbers behind the scenes every single week and talk to you about the favorable matchups. Shout out to Supercoach Guns who puts out his try map. So there's plenty of relevance there. And plenty more across all of the other sports that we cover as well. The guys are doing a cracker job, the Big Horse and Skitty over in the AFL Supercoach world. So being an Insight Unlimited member gets you access to them as well. And of course, if you're in the World Cup, it's absolutely, it's a fantastic resource to get involved there. So thanks for watching. Catch you later.